Hi guys, welcome to a fresh new subject called as business data analytics. Now I know this is only 1/5 of the total amount of marks that are relevant for this paper. So while paper 11A is for 80 marks, paper 11B on business data analytics is only for 20 marks. Having said that it is only for 20 marks, there is a lot you can learn from this. But of course, at the end of the day, as I told you, though it is only going to be for 20 marks, it is going to be of some valuable insight. The techniques, trends, and the content that we are learning today, that is going to be of help to you even in your future endeavors. So data analytics, which is our paper 11B, and this is about for 20 marks. So considering that it is only for 20 marks, many students comfortably ignore that, which I don't want you guys to do because it is a fairly simple subject. So if you just concentrate on the two parts, what is data, what is analytics, and rather how it is used, so we will call that together as business data analytics. So how is data analytics used in business? Now, if you have heard me tell you in the emerging technologies in the past in strategic management about how today almost all the businesses, you take Amazon, you take Swiggy, you take Zomato, right? I'm talking about some of the, you talk something like a Cred, you talk about all these modern day startup based entities. They use data so much so that all our data is the only valuable asset they have. So the more they have the data, the more they can analyze your patterns as a customer. When do I buy? What do I buy? When do I spend? How much do I spend? What is that I will do? Everything. They have a complete understanding of all these details. So which exactly is what we need to try and talk about in this chapter. So before we dwell into the details, actually, as such, you don't have much to discuss here. The story is all about 4 chapters. Let me also take you through those 4 chapters here, coming back to this. So going by our index, the business data analytics have only 4 chapters. First one is all the introduction to all the data science. Now the random collection of things which appear to be data, then how are they used for decision making in business? Now decision making being a very crucial activity. Based on all this data only, they are going to make the decisions. But in today's time, the number of tools that are available, the number of tools that are available to make these decisions, they are huge. So what are those tools? How is it useful for us to make decisions, and what best can we do in this context is what we are going to discuss. It's going to be a short and a breezy session, what I should say. 20 marks, but like I said, it's more like uh, see, all the topics are interlinked. Actually, what is data? How is it used for decision making? Where do we get the data from? Then how do we process it? Data processing, organizing it in a common format or a manner, then talk about data cleansing, and finally with a validation whether the output that you got, is it okay or not, like that we have to see. And then also we are going to talk about presentation. Once the data uh, is processed, presenting it is very important. Today, even if you take an Instagram post, there are so many Instagram posts where they show the map, which part of India is occupied with what, where the crop growing culture is how much. So like that today you see, and then which part of India spends on what. So they put India map and you have seen the portion of that. Then you have seen data being shown in circles. So today there are various posts that are shown on Instagram with a lot of data. Okay. When we discuss, we'll see some examples as we talk about some of these. So the fact that how data is presented visually attractive, that is called data visualization. The more easy it is for a viewer to understand by seeing the data, right? Visualization. And today we have graphic presentation. We can have it in the form of bar diagrams, in the form of pie diagrams, in the form of scatter plots. So there are various ways of how to present the data also, not just give the data but also present the data. So without much of dwelling deeper into unnecessary facts, how quickly and easily can we present the content? See, content oration is very important. whatever data you bring, from where you bring, more than that, whether the data that you brought stands up to the organization's need or not. Because one thing that you should understand, no matter what is going on, if the end of the day data is wrong, all the story that we are talking about is ultimately going to go wrong. So therefore it is very important that we understand that the data, that is why in the initial stage when we talked about data processing, organizing, cleaning is a part of removing duplicate data, removing data that doesn't match the content that we are expecting. All these are also to be done. So thereby data presentation, which includes visualization and graphic presentation. Then we're talking about data analysis and using about the tools to data modeling. Some of the, again we will discuss here also, like we discussed in the last chapter of SM. Here also we are supposed to discuss about robotic process automation. And then we will also talk about certain tools which are the latest emerging technology that are available for doing all of this, that also we can see. So these are the 4 chapters that you have in your syllabus, a very limited one, but like I said, the fourth one also has a lot of content to explore and understand. So first chapter, I don't, like I said, I really don't want to call it a big chapter of sorts. It is just a little piece of introduction. Then we have all the various aspects being presented one by one. 10 and 11, these 2 chapters have the content which is sizable enough to understand what we are actually talking about in 8 and 9. So 8 and 9 introduce you to the subject. 10 and 11 tell you how to do various things in the subject. So that's all. That is the only thing that is there in the subject. There's nothing much. So first thing to start with, we will discuss about what is data, what is information, and what is knowledge. So the story starts by talking about what do you mean by data science. And for that, for every business, one of the most important things, I think we already know from management. That is why I told you, in management they talk about doing so many things. There also a lot of things depend on the data that you collect, right? One of the most important things that depends on data to be collected is the decision making aspect. Is that true? The decision making aspect. Okay, so the introduction to data science is all about how you use this data to make various decisions. So considering that, we will talk about the meaning, nature, and meaning, nature, properties, and also we will talk about some of the scope of the data. This entire story will be explaining us what is to be done in the first place. So what is data and how is it linked to information and knowledge? Three key words are being discussed, guys. What is data, what is information, and what is knowledge? So let us in the first place analyze each of them individually. What are the 3 words that we talked about? First one is called as data. From data comes something called as information. From that information comes something called as knowledge. Okay, so while we discuss these, what about data, information, and knowledge? For that, first we have to know what is data. What is data? Data is nothing but, if you see the basic definition of data, data is a raw aspect, collection of facts and figures, nothing. It is absolutely raw in nature, right? Data is simply, if you have to express what is data, data is collection of facts and figures. Okay, collection of what? Facts and figures, and more to it to add up to the story, right? It can include numbers or images, anything, any random text content or text strings. Okay, data is basically, you call it as what? Data is absolutely raw in nature. Okay, this is the story about data. Then if you apply a set of steps, if you apply a set of steps, now however you want to call them, steps, techniques, whatever it is, right? When the data has been subject to some amount of processing. Okay, data when processed, data when processed becomes information. So that is the elevation, one step above what is data. A very neatly processed form of data is only called as information. Now you can do it using computers, right? Using computers, anything to better using computers or any softwares. We are using any of that to make the information ready, right? So the better part of all these software tools, whatever you are using, this the study of all this is become data science. Where did data come from, what is it, and how is it? So there is a relation between all these three. Now today you can use some online tools. It is not necessary that the tool has to be in one place only. It is like it is there in any insightful aspect which can be developed. Okay, insightful means what you understand out of it. So data is very raw. Something that can be processed becomes information, but whether something information is insightful, okay, so universally applicable, or an understanding that is gained, okay, understanding, an understanding, an understanding gained from knowledge, an understanding gained from use of information is only called as, you can call it as an understanding or inference. What did you infer from that? Infer means again understanding, only a better word for that, an understanding or inference that you gain. Data is raw, information is processed form, while knowledge is universal, right? So I will give you one very simple example so that you can easily understand that. Okay, for common example we will put example, right? 7412. What is 7412? 7412 is, it could be a room number, it could be a locker number, it could be anything, it could be anything. So 7412 is data. That's a number. Correct or not? But when you say the same thing, right? This one here, right here, what you see 7412 is mere data. But if the same 7412, if we add one thing, say for example, rupees 7412 is my bank balance. This is example for information. Randomly it is not 7412. Rupees 7412 is my bank balance. That makes what is called as a perfect sense. So that is absolutely what is called as information. Now for knowledge, if you see another, in the same case of bank balance, if my bank balance, if my balance falls below 5000, if my balance falls below 5000, I will be penalized. This is knowledge. That is your minimum balance is 5000 rupees. If you fall below 5000 rupees, you will be penalized. Knowing this is more of a knowledge. Understood? So it depends, like this is a most simplest example I can give you. Okay, this is what data is, this is what information is, and this is what knowledge is. This is the starting point for our discussion. And since this is the starting point for our discussion, I would also want people to tell you something. Now those of you who are watching this after watching SM, you know our style of going by. I've already told you, pick up the same notes where you wrote SM. It would have hardly, you would have spent about 25-30 pages there. You can continue putting the heading as data analytics and make the notes for this also. If you are watching this data analytics first, still put one heading called paper 11B and put up the heading as business data analytics. and start making the notes. Sir, anyway, you will share the PDF. No, I will use it. See, PDF I will share. Okay, that is now during the classes I don't want to upload PDFs. Right at the end of the class, whatever I make, I will share the PDF. But you make a handwritten one. That is always better. Understood? And then you can use it PDF in your mobile for revision or something like that. Because after you write the notes, if you can take a photo of that and put it in your mobile. But if you don't want to do that also, if you for your mobile version or revision, if you want that, use it. Don't make it as a substitute. Okay, understood? I don't suggest that. I've already suggested this in the beginning of SM also, but some people they are oriented towards you give the PDF, we know what to do. So I will give, my job is to give you, but at the end of the day, that is what I'm recommending. Okay, because concepts are very simple, and if you can make it, nothing like that. Okay, so this is the first set of points, guys. What is data, what is information, and what is knowledge? You might want to take a full look of it. Then we will go back and read all these 3 points in greater detail. Then we will discuss about various other aspects of data one by one. What are the types of data? What is the nature of data? Where do we get the data from? All of that we will discuss once you note this down. Come on. All right, guys, I hope you have gone through that. So let us move on to discussing what these points are in slighter detail. We'll bring you to that. So the first part of the discussion, we have meaning, nature, properties, and including the scope of data. So coming to the first point, talking about data, as I told you the word there, raw facts and figures. Data is what? Raw facts and figures, usually in the form of numbers or text strings. Numbers or text strings. On its own, data has absolutely no meaning. Inherent means within. So within it, there is no meaning, because obviously it has got nothing to do with the meaningful classification or information. Nothing. It is just absolutely raw in nature with no inherent any kind of meaning. Followed by what is information, as we just saw, processed data. So this raw data, when it get processed, raw data becomes processed data that provides either a meaning or a context. What does it provide? A meaning or a context. So processed form of data. So if you see visibly clear difference is there. Here there is no inherent meaning, but here there is a clear meaning. Understood? Then knowledge. Knowledge is about the insights or understanding gained from analyzing information. So you know the um, story now. From data comes information. After processing, from information comes knowledge. That is, this data classification is something that we saw, right? So how do you classify data? That becomes a very important aspect to get information and knowledge further, and that is exactly why we are going to see the subject in greater detail. As you want to see the next point here, this is a key point. Data is the source of, what is data? The source of information. Data is the source of information, and information leads to knowledge. Data is information, information leads to knowledge. Represents the relationship. So that you can clearly see, which I was telling you all this while, is this is what represents the complete story between data, information, and knowledge. So first is data, then is information, and then is knowledge. This is the preliminary understanding that one needs to have in the context of. We are going to discuss, of course, the larger story of data science, and all that. But to start with, this is what somebody has to know, that there are three terms, and this is how they work. Okay. So guys, let us now, obviously, before, as I just introduced you the word data processing, what does it mean? How is it used? What are we going to do in that? Let us see all that with the next part. What is information? If you see that, data must be processed. Processing means set of activities set of or sequence of steps. Okay, a set of or a sequence of steps applied on the data. So normally process word is called as set or sequence of steps. When you apply such set or sequence of steps on a data, it will then generate the fact called as information. So it is very clear about the fact that data will eventually generate information. Tools used. Sir, who will help me in doing this processing? Computers. Computers can help you definitely do that. Obviously, computer means not the hardware alone, even software. So, computers and the software packages that are available today, they're commonly used for processing the data. Now, sir, can I process the data manually? If you're raising a question like that, I will absolutely give you the answer as yes. Nobody will deny that they cannot process data manually. See, okay, digitization came in the last few years. Of course, we are going to talk about what to digitize and how to digitize now, a little shortly. But the fact that nobody can take away that, the fact that we could do all this manually. Yeah. But beyond a scale, a human brain can't do it naturally. Then you need to put in other source and means, which is exactly why the challenge becomes harder. So computers and software packages are commonly used for processing the data. And then recent trends today, rapid growth in computing power. Right on their example, today we use something called as GPUs, correct? So all these artificial intelligence powered units, they work on GPUs. You know the brand called Nvidia. CPU, which is a traditional central processing unit. The GPU are their graphic processing units, like they are much faster. So you have the Nvidia graphic cards today, which are used while playing games and all that. So even graphic content gets, high-end games, media, they also get processed very faster. So rapid growth in computing power. Above that, you can write example use of GPUs and other software tools have driven the rise of data sciences. Today, if you want to take a huge amount of data and process, why should I not give you the name? Because you already know it. Remember big data processing. So when you're talking about big data and the big data gets processed, right, today we have amazing tools so that the big data gets processed quite easily. So rapid growth in computing power, software tools have driven to the rise of data science. An outcome, these advancements have enabled efficient handling and analysis of large volume of data, which are called as big data. You can write that. We already discussed that unimaginably huge amounts of data taken for processing are called as big data. So basically this is what data is, how they are linked we already saw. This is what information is. And to now close this out, we talk about knowledge. When this very information is used to solve a problem, right, information that is to solve a problem becomes knowledge, right? Using temperature data of Kolkata for a month to estimate air conditioner sales. So that you can see what is the average temperature in that place, how people are reacting to weather patterns. Will that sometimes in some other places you can see in which months they buy heaters, in which months they buy ACs, in which month they consume what food. Today data is just your what do you say, it is an unimaginably powerful tool in today's conditions. The more the data you have, the deeper you can go in terms of processing that. Again, to analyze the profitability of FMCG companies in India, the first information needed is a list of company names. Not only FMCG, any sector. Stock market is another area today where which uses a lot of data analytical or data processable tools. So in today's time, data analytics is it's a far-fetched idea. People have so much data that can be used to make valuable information, and from there you can go about discussing various decision making aspects about the data. Right now, let us go about talking about what are the various nature of data. Now I want all of you to understand here what is the nature of data. Data can be in many ways, but two of the most commonly expressed, of course, today you can say three of the most commonly expressed data forms are numbers, words, and pictures. So numbers they call numerical data, words they're called as descriptive data, and pictures or anything else is called as the graphic data. Then again, in that organization wise, if data is well organized, it is called structured data. If it is haywire here and there, then it is called unstructured data. Then depending on numbers, it's called quantitative data. Words, it's called qualitative data. Then data which is within a range, so from A to B, like a range, okay, weight category, height category, all those they are called as continuous data. That is also called flowing data. Then another data is there which is called as categorical data. Like categorical data means like a set of sketch pens, 12 colors, a category. Then a set of cars, set of bikes, like that. Categorically we are grouping them into distinct groups and going for the data. So broadly data is of three types, and all these based on organization, based on the type, and based on the flow, we have different data classifications. Let me make it simple for you, right? Normally how is the data classified, we will just I will put it across to you so that we will like emphasize that and then discuss that in greater detail. Okay, so the word data, or rather say nature of data, how does nature of data look like? Nature of data goes by, so broadly if you see what is the nature of data, three types or three branches are there: numerical data, then descriptive data, and graphic data. These are the three. Apart from this, based on nature of data, based on organization, based on its organizing. So if a data is well organized, then the data will be either structured data or unstructured data. Structured data or unstructured data. Then based on type, quantitative and qualitative. And then based on grouping, you can say it is either categorical data or continuous data. Continuous and categorical data. So if you have to say, we'll number them. Okay, one on numerical data, descriptive data, graphic data. This also based on organizing. We have 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and, so these are the 9 points in the nature of data. So this basically, now what is based on organizing, type and grouping, though they don't have segregations like that, we have segregated for your better understanding. Okay, so this is the story behind the nature of data. This could be a straight question in the exam. Things become very very easy if you are able to figure out what they are. Let us come back to that point here, guys, on nature of data. Numerical data, what is expressed as numbers, are called as numerical data. Stock prices are purely numerical data. Qualitative information that is used in decision making is called as descriptive data. You are talking about any place, or you're talking about any other area, or you're talking about anything. So basically that will be something to do with uh, the content orientation. If it is qualitative in nature, then qualitative information helps in decision making. Qualitative information helps in decision making, and it's used for judicious, means a wise investment choices. If you're making up any investment choices, or for that matter if you're making any choices, this time with what we need, when data is given in the form of lengthy descriptions, it will be called as descriptive data. So that is the first and foremost aspect, right? So qualitative data is used for decision making, and graphic data, where data is shown in the form of pictures or graphics. As I told you somewhere when we started today, a lot of presentation happens on social media platforms, should be eye catchy, easy for people to understand. So that is why data shown through pictures or graphics, which is nothing but a visual representation. A visual representation can convey complex information very effectively. Even a complex piece of information can be shown very effectively. That is what is about the three top classifications of data: numerical, descriptive, and graphic data. Now when it goes to the other two, based on, you can write it here, based on organizing. Based on what? Based on organizing. Can you read what is that they're talking about? Based on organizing, whether the data in its, I mean, like data when it is coming in its original form, okay? When it is in original form, the question arises as to how it is organized, right? So let us, for your convenience, you can do this. Put it like this: data when based on organizing, okay? When you say when based on organizing, should I just bring it a little? Based on organizing, you can see that data is classified into well organized data is called structured data. Well organized, easily searchable data is usually stored in databases or spreadsheets. Spreadsheets, you can take an example, Excel sheet. Any Excel sheet also is a spreadsheet where you store data, easy to retrieve, right? Unstructured data is data without any predefined model. There is no predefined model. Like our school textbooks or college textbooks or any of this content, we will call it as structured data. They're neatly organized, right? And in fact, in this very page of your book, you can see a little further. This is a graphic data. We can show the properties in description also, but here we choose to show it through a like visually eye catchy, easy. So same way going forward also, in many places we will find, if you go some scrolling just down here, you can see one just a flow. Why we can show all of this even in text form? No, yes, of course you can show that, but it is better to show it in diagram. It is easy sometimes. Sometimes showing something in diagram is complicated, okay? So like that, depending on what it is, we should be able to understand that. So data based on organizing is structured, unstructured. All text documents, images, videos, social media posts, they all are unstructured. They don't have any predefined model. In your language, if you have to put it more simply, it's called random, randomized, unstructured. So there are two types here: structured, unstructured. And then we are going to talk about quantitative and qualitative. I don't think I need you to I need to explain you guys as to what is quantitative. Measurable numerical data expressed using numbers is called as, quantitative data. Similar to numerical data, similar to what? Numerical data, but emphasizes what is called as measurability. And then we're also talking about qualitative data, which is descriptive in data, based on qualities or characteristics, often collected via interviews. They're either collected via interviews, observations, or even open-ended responses. All these are qualitative in nature. And based on flow, that is how the data is, right? If the data can flow and take any value within a range, it is called as continuous data. Height can be 20, 25, weight can be 20, 25, 30, 40, 70, 80, 100, anything. Similarly, height, right? 5'5", 5'7", 5'8", 6, 6'4", anything height. Temperature 25, 30, 32, -5, -10, anything. So any value they can. Categorically, data is taken into only one group. Distinct categories or groups. Like you can take only a particular thing, like say type of cars, colors. Colors may be many, but only one group. Brands, they can all be grouped in. So based on that, you are going to classify. So This nature of data is very important for you, not only in terms of exam but also in terms of your understanding, because these three are pure classification of data based on their uh, type of the data, or other classification, their appearance. One is in numbers, one is in description, one is in graphic. Then based on organizing pattern, structure and structured. Based on the type, they are quantitative, qualitative, and based on flow you can call them for continuous data and categorical data. So these are the points about the nature of data. We will do one more small discussion on what is the or what are the properties of data, and then I will let you run through the story once. Then we can I mean, of course, two small pieces are there, properties of data and scope of data. That will take care of our first topic. Then you can revise the topic and we will continue discussing the next one. Okay, what are the properties of data? Now if you see, what are the various properties of data, right? First one, in the name only it is there, guys. Accuracy. What do you mean by accuracy? Right, accurate means absolutely correct, right? Accuracy talks about the correctness of data, in other words. The second property of data should be complete, because if data is incomplete, listen to this, if data itself is incomplete, imagine what you are going to extract from that will also be like that only or not. So basically, if the data makes sense, if the data does make any sense, it has to be complete. Otherwise, these are things that you learned even in audit. From the population that you are pulling the sample, the first requirement of population be complete. If population itself is not complete, then how will you pull the data from that? So it's very important to talk about the completeness of the data. Consistency. Data should be consistent across formats. For your additional understanding, I'm writing that consistent across formats. Then comparison will be easy, or anything to do from that will be easy. Otherwise, you don't know what you are signing up for, because I'll tell you what the logic is in this. So when data is inconsistent, then they are all not of the same level. So when data is not of the same level, how will you compare? I'll tell you one easy example. See, one column date is there, date, huh? DDMMYY is there, another column MMDDYY is there. So that comparison itself is becoming a little chaotic aspects. And then whatever content is there, it should be usable for us. Relevance, accuracy, completeness, consistency, and talk about relevance. How relevant is to us? What are we going to do? And data should not be too old. Our data should be current. And here, sometimes when you're doing about something in the past, it is called historical data. Nothing wrong about having the past data, but it should make some sense, right? So we will talk about that also. Historical relevance of data is very important. So how old or new, relevance and timeliness wise, old or new, both go hand in hand. Historical data or latest data, depending on what exercise you are doing, data time will change. If you are exercising something based on the past to now, historical data will be taken. If you want to decide something about today, then current information will make sense. And data, one of the very important features or properties of data is its validity. Is it current? Current means the latest. Is it valid? Okay, maybe one point of time it was valid, today also is that validity there? Huh? And last one is accessibility. Can we get the data, get to use the data? Data is there, but do you have accessibility? No sir, data is not accessible. Then how do you say that data is there but we can't use it? Makes no sense. So accuracy, completeness, consistency, relevance, timeliness, validity, and accessibility are all the factors which are called as the properties of data. There is no much of a description into the story, they're just about all the points. So if they ask you to fill up anything, or if they ask you to pull off anything from this, you need to remember all the 7 words. One more time, what is the discussion here? Accuracy, completeness, consistency, relevance, accessibility, validity, and timeliness. These are all the points that one has to take into consideration while discussing what is called as the properties of data. Then we move forward from here to the next one, where we are going to talk about a small piece called scope of the data. What does the data cover? Right, then with that we will cover all the basic attributes of data. and then we will move to topic number 2. So basically the word scope means, I think all of you know the word scope very well. You've seen it 100 times. Scope of this, scope of that, scope of audit. So whatever it is, like a scope of a particular thing in the organization, everything put together. So basically we are just trying to give you an understanding as to what is the context, to what extent are we talking about, the range and extent. Scope directly refers to these words, range and extent of information which is available for analysis or for consideration. What are you going to analyze and what are you going to consider out of that, right? Available for analysis or consideration. So what is there in this? What are the components? If you see what the components are, it includes depth and width of the data. Depth and width of the data. So how deep is the data and what is the context of the data? Depth and width of the data. Sources of data. Where did the data come from? Data source, right? Source of data. In other words, it is called the origin, point of origin. Where did this data originate? Okay, so it talks about that. It includes depth and width of the data. It talks about the source of the data. It also talks about the variety, that is, yeah, based on whatever I told you. The variety means this organizing pattern, is it structured or unstructured. Volume, which talks about the amount of data. Time frame, what is the time frame? Again we are talking about, is it historical data or current data. Sometimes there is also futuristic data which is called as projected information. All of you prepared financial statements, you know what I'm talking about, projected financial statements, right? Or projected data, whatever we prepare. So that is exactly how we take that into the context there. So all these points, depth and width of the data, variety of data, volume, the amount of, that is the amount of data that you have, and the time frame, historical, current or projected data. And purpose defines what insights or conclusions. Purpose means the major, what can you draw from the data, and how comprehensive. In simple words you can say how deep, right? Comprehensive basically means you are covering everything. So here, how comprehensively you can make the analysis, how deep the analysis can be made using the data. That is the scope of data. So guys, what are the various points that one needs to understand? We will just get this also on record here, because this is a very important point to be noted. Very simple, but we will still make it a quick point to note that up here in our list of aspects, so that it will be easy for you to revise it. Now we know the nature of data. Let me bring up this point here so that we can talk about the, before we discuss anything, we will talk about the properties of data. Properties of data. Easy, so let us not ignore. We will take all of this 7 into consideration, right? First one talks about accuracy. Just to add little accuracy, completeness. Able to see it, right? Yeah, accuracy, completeness, consistency, relevance, timeliness, validity, and from where can you get it? Accessibility. Okay, so these are all the properties of the data, right? So and then if you really, here only we can add up the other aspect also, if you really want to make that, since it's a set of 5 points only, the properties of data, right? We will also write about the scope of data. Just again a similar exercise for doing what is called as the scope of data. We'll take a set of points here. The first one is called as the depth and width of the data. and width, volume or sources, then comes volume, variety, and time frame. So all these are included in the scope of data. So these are the set of 2 points that you have to bother about: the nature of data and the uh, you know properties and the scope of data. So what are the various data types that are used in finance, costing? What is the next part of the discussion about how data should be digitized? Is it important to digitize the data? That also we will discuss, but I hope everybody got this up clearly here. Okay, right. So on that note, let me quickly discuss with you one more important point what we have to discuss. So maybe we can then break this session down and we can take the one to the next one. Okay, let me bring this back on screen. So where you are talking about scope, then we'll talk about types of data in finance and costing. This is a very easy insight, guys. Data plays a very important role in finance and cost accounting. That is why we are studying about it. We know that since the inception of finance, since the inception, that is from whenever we started using, since the inception of finance accounting and cost accounting, data has been essential. Obviously we know that without data there is nothing that you can really do about it. And what are the data, how does it appear? In data appears in the form of financial statements, cost statements, etc. And finance and accounting professionals use data to help management make prudent decision. That is the whole idea of data. Using all this, we have to apply data analytics on it. Obviously on its own it won't make any sense if you just do it, but yeah, definitely you have to use some of the aspects here. So finance and accounting professionals use data to manage and make prudent decisions. Then we are talking about data can be both quantitative and qualitative. The third time we're seeing this only. So quantitative data is expressed in numbers, common in finance because of numerical records. So stock prices, we already saw the example, and balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, all these are documents which are full of numbers, so I don't think I have to explain you what those are. When you talk about qualitative, non-numerical, text, audio, video, all these are qualitative data and useful for making insights and strategic analysis. For making what? Insights and strategic analysis. So the examples here are management discussion and analysis, management discussion and analysis in annual reports, executive interviews, what they give now, whether it's a paper column or basically anything to do with an understanding, all these are coming under this category. Okay, so I think I don't want to like juggle across with lot of it. So in this space I will wrap the first session here to keep it short and simple. As we go further, we'll talk about what is data's digitization process. First of all, digitization means what? We already know this from strategic management. If you have read that full story first, it is about converting something from analog to digital, if you remember. So we will come back and discuss that in greater detail. Nothing to worry. Since it's the first one, I want to keep it like a short one with all the basics of data information and knowledge, the introduction to data analytics. In the next one, we will talk about digitization and go further into the greater details. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome back to another session on data analytics. Now in the previous session, we have seen the introduction to data analytics. So in this session, we will talk about one of the topics, that is the current trend, which again I did discuss towards the end of our strategic management's discussion. So if you're watching this before that, then you get to know it here. Otherwise, those of you who have already finished the piece there, analog to digital conversion is what we call as digitization. You remember this? Huh? Data earlier was in physical form, which is basically in the form of papers, printed records, and all of that. But today we have data which is being maintained in the form of electronic objects, right? Which are media based objects. Say when I use the word object in this context, it could be a audio file, video file, anything. It could be a plain text document. So all these come under digitization. So what is digitization? Why should we do digitization? Obviously, if you remember the stories that you back in school studied about Stone Age, right? There is something in the Stone Age, but when people wanted to pass on information to the future generations, they carved on the wall. Maybe I've taken this example in multiple occasions. So let me remind once again, and this time a little detailed into it, because today we are talking about the need to digitize as well. So the ultimate understanding or the idea, if you see here, the entire mechanism today that we are driven by is through digital sources. That is, we have computers which are having processing chips. We also have data storage sources which are housed up on data warehouses. Today you see, take a Google or a Facebook, or for that matter today you take a OpenAI, something like that, which runs chat GPT. They all have immense amount of data to store. Now just imagine if chat GPT type of AI is processing anything that you ask and giving you results in minutes. So don't you think it is a huge repository of database that is there behind which is helping it do this? So yes, maybe if historical data is still in physical form, you may not find the true worth of it, which is the reason why we have to digitize it. Digitized information can be used across the world. That is one of the very important things. Physical data can be used only in one place, no, because data will be there only. But once you digitize and put it on the web, you understand what is on the web, right? So once you put it on the web, now like say for example you stored a file in Google Drive. When you store your data in Google Drive, you can access that content from anywhere and everywhere. It is not necessary that you have to carry the documents anymore, hold those books anymore. That drama is not there. So this physical data that we have, or we carry, is called as analog data. Data which is in the form of media files, they are called as digital data. This process of converting analog to digital data is only called as digitization. It is as simple as that to start with. Okay, I hope you understood this piece, right? Digitization, what is it? Digitization is the process of converting data from analog to digital format. Okay, analog to digital format. Before digitization, data can be in the form of an object, document, or maybe even an image, right? But once it is converted into a computerized form, now I hope all of you learnt in school back then that computer can read only the binary language in zeros and ones. So we use the binary zeros and ones to convert all the content into the form of zeros and ones, so that we can make a digital format or digitized version of the same thing. So basically this is the understanding of what do we do in the concept of digitization. Okay, let us just go ahead and put this up, guys. As we do it every time, we will put here also digitization. So digitization of data, we will talk about a couple of other points also under this. So first thing what I would want you to understand about digitization is the fact that we just discussed converting what into what? Converting analog conversion, or converting data in analog form into digital form. This is the basic definition of what you call as digitization, right? So what are you converting it into digital form? Means digital, here we are talking about the fact that digital into, which means something in the form of a binary, the context zeros and ones. You are converting the entire data into binary. When you're talking about analog data, which is in the analog form, can either be object or a document or it can as well be, like a image or anything. So all these will come under this, right? So this is what the basic understanding is. Now the main purpose, why are we doing this? So that useful for, I will just write that for you as a additional side heading here, the purpose. Okay, we can as well try and give it a separate branch also. What is the main purpose of digitization? So if you see what is the main purpose of digitization, so that you can give it a what is called as, in today's time it is called digital footprint. That means making it available digitally, so that you can, once you digitize, it can be used for the main purpose is digitized data. Digitized data can be used for, digitized data can be used for computer based processing. Digitized data can be used for what? Computer based processing. So this is the ultimatum there. This is a story. Now we do have a couple of other topics coming up here. What are the main objectives? Okay, and then reasons. Reasons here, which means the question as to why do we digitize? Very important point to be discussed, right? And then of course the fact that we will talk about little couple of objectives, and then we have reasons, and then comes the very important discussion about how do we digitize. Okay, so let us talk about the purpose. I explained you objectives, reasons, and the steps involved in digitization we will discuss and come back and fill this. Such a simple concept, guys. One last time, what is it? Converting analog data into digital, that is in the binary form, will be called as digitization. The main purpose is physical data cannot be used for computer based processing and all that, but digital data can be used and you can infer something out of that. So today, just imagine if map was still in physical form, you wouldn't have a Google map today, right? Google maps are taking you from one place to the other. Best part of the story is about your navigation patterns have become so easy, right? So yes, of course there is a uh, you know definite benefit of going for a digital version. Just imagine paper currency, leave all this paper currency. When we have digitized that, and we have made it digital money, today you saw the rampant usage of UPI, right? So like that, no doubt that digitization will make a lot of sense. Even our physical records, right? Today Aadhaar, PAN, driving license, all these when we digitize, we just don't. So the only device that you have to carry throughout the day is your phone today. It's become like that, right? So yes, digital records are amazing, and the best part about digital records is we will discuss right now. So the purpose to create a digital surrogate, surrogate, right? Generally they call no surrogate baby, like that here. Digital surrogate means another version of, okay, to create a digital surrogate using binary numbers. What is the main reason? So that they can be used for computer based processing. In analog, if you see here in analog, you can add up their analog, not suitable. Analog is not suitable for computer based processing. Analog is what? Not suitable for computer based processing, but that is why we are using this and converting it into binary so that it can be used for computer based processing. Computer based processing. The key objectives, I told you, right? It should be able to be usable anywhere in the world. Widespread access. And in Stone Age, they wanted to convey some data and preserve the data. They carved it on stones. Then came the next generation. Let us see how things unfolded. So it's a very interesting thing to know. I don't know if many of you know this or not. So after writing on stones, then what they did is then they started writing it on dry leaves. Dry leaves, they'll burn that leaves and leave the content. That used to be one of the times. Then slowly they crushed the leaves and made ink out of that, some kind of an ink or imprint which will last longer. Then they used and wrote that. Then they found ink, but they couldn't find paper. So they made wood pulp. Today also paper is extracted from that only. Then wood pulp. Then they spread that pulp. That's a different kind of, you can't call it today's paper, but it was one kind of a thing, right? Like not cloth at the same time, not paper, something intermediary, wood pulp. They make the wood pulp, they dry it, and then they will make out of that. So then they wrote on that. So like that, they used to kind of make these things over a period of time, and then slowly they found paper, then we found pencil also. They used to write with graphite, but they again their erased content was there. So then came pen or pens ink slowly. Today all of those have gone, and all these can be converted into digital forms, which will be everlasting. Unless you delete that file, data will not go anywhere, and same data can be stored in multiple places. Now same map, two copies you can make, but it can't be, like coexisting at the same times. But it is not like that today. Today I think you have already heard about the term called blockchain. Blockchain is an amazing concept with what is called as the distributed ledger technology. So any change you are making in that entire blockchain, you can't delete anything. I think those of you who heard me in SM about that, we have talking about currencies which are using blockchain and following some cryptocurrency or cryptic version of that. So only thing, it's becoming more and more interesting. So if you want to preserve data and leave it for future generations, then also digital data will make a lot of sense. So multiple users, if they want to access the data from various places, now like say they put data on Google server, they put data on Wikipedia, are we accessing comfortably or not? Plus preservation of data over a long period of time, all this is about digital. One of the best examples in India, the largest digitization of the citizens record is the UID, the unique identification number, which is the Aadhaar data is all digitized data about you. The government has your fingerprint, the government has your retina scans. The government having retina data in their database is so amazing that, imagine just today, I don't know how many of you use this. In airport there is a facility called Digi Yatra. You just have to put your boarding pass into the Digi Yatra app, and then you have to just, there is a counter for you to walk in. As you walk in, it will just scan your eyes, and it will recognize you as a person. That's it, you can walk. And you know what used to take me, because sometimes, I mean, like, I do take at the airport quite often, so now I know how it was back then to now. Everywhere there is a, I will say, about 60 to 70% reduction in the time. In fact, I can say 90%, but you guys will think it's exaggerating. So you will, once you experience it, you understand it how smooth it will be. Because otherwise, you know the procedure, right? You have to go there. Uh, the guard will be standing. You have to show your ticket, and you have to show your ID proof. Then they'll check you and then send you inside. This is just to enter the airport. Now, next to that security guard, one special counter is there for Digi Yatra passengers. All our name only you see Digi Yatra. All the data of your travel is digitized, and it's a crazy initiative from the government of India. All I need to do is to install the Digi Yatra app on my phone. Whichever flight I'm taking, the flight details or the boarding pass, it will ask for it, and we can upload it. Once uploaded, your flight data is ready with it. So all you need to do is to either, now some people, as I told you, if your retinal scan is a problem, you can just, there is a QR code that comes on this phone, you can scan that also and go inside. So they don't need to physically verify your ID, cross check, nothing. And best part, this is at three gates. There's the entry gate, then the security clearance counter, then even the airline. All three places Digi Yatra counter is there, and it is such a seamless, smooth process, right? And I've experienced it multiple times. So the reason why I'm telling you this is that when we talk about digitization, it is not just a textbook topic. It is real, and it is really easy to, the efficiency increase in terms of the savings of time is not even compared to closely measurable, right? Just imagine physical documents. If you have to search for a document, I, as an article student, I remember spend days in record rooms searching for some documents. Today, my article student don't even know that struggle. All they will do is to click an F3 and search and just give the keyword. Document is retrieved. Right? I didn't say that's a great exercise, but we used to waste time on such unproductive aspects so much. I used to spend days in ROC record rooms. First of all, they are horrible places. They don't maintain them properly. Right? All sorts of animal planet, insect planet will be there. Right? Rats will be roaming around, cockroaches will be there. You pick up one file, there be, you get dust allergy. And I'm not exaggerating, guys. It's all true. Right? And this I'm not talking about some centuries ago. This is about 10 to 15 years ago. And today, all that you need to do is to go to the MCA website, pay 50 rupees to view public documents, download them over. So you understood the power of digitization now. Let's go for why do we digitize? Okay, this could be a straight question in the exam, guys, with 9 solid points giving you reasons as to why should we digitize. Why we digitize? One, it facilitates a very easy retrieval. Underline, easy retrieval of records. Multiple users can access the same record at the same time. Example, in bracket you can say Google documents. Google documents can be used. Reusability of complex data. When data is complex, enables reuse of difficult data, which in analog form becomes very difficult to use. Like, say for example, large maps are there. I want to see the entire city map. It's practically not possible to spread that entire map across the room like they show in those, movies and go around. So it doesn't make any sense. So that I think it should be more similar in terms of what you see to a Google map, digital maps. Not only Google Maps, so many digital maps are there. But one of the best examples that you guys can keep in mind is about the Google Maps, right? Complex data, again Google or Apple Maps. I don't like Apple Maps, that is why I'm telling you about Google Maps. Then support for work processing, that is what I was just talking about, enhances efficiency, right? In data handling and processing tasks, that is the time reduction is amazing. So again, output wise also rise in efficiency and output. So task wise also there is improvement. I don't want people to get confused for these 2 points. Why they're talking about efficiency twice? No, one is in task handling. This is for processing efficiency. This is for efficiency in output, and allows seamless integration. Seamless means without any breaks or any flows. Allows seamless integration with existing information systems. Easier to store backups because you don't have to keep anything on paper or anything like that. You can comfortably store backups, and records can be accessed from multiple locations via network systems, and requires very less physical space unlike traditional document storage. So I think there should not be any problem in for you to understand all these 9 points, guys. That alone can turn out to be a question straight in the exam as to why do we go for digitization. Now I can as well take you through to, we will do one thing, instead of waiting on hold for so long, we will kind of go ahead and summarize these points. The first, we will talk about the two objectives that are their objectives. One, what are the first objective? Widespread access. Widespread access to, if you want you can write the sentence or simple, or I think it's better that you write widespread access to multiple users. Widespread access to multiple users. And the second point talks about uh, point number 2, the objectives. Again here it is about preservation for future use. What is the keyword? Preservation. Preservation for future use. Okay, let's go with the reasons, guys. Reasons, I want all of you to make sure that we get all 9 in tandem. So reasons, what are those? We will see one by one. First one, as we just talked about, easy retrieval. Easy retrieval followed by, now see, please understand why the fact that we compile, I've told you multiple times, again and again, you don't have to sit and read the whole thing. Okay, easy retrieval, multiple users can access simultaneously for complex data. Okay, reuse, you can say reuse of complex data. Point number 4, enhance efficiency in processing. Enhance efficiency in processing. Then moving on, seamless integration, easy to store backups from anywhere. You can uh, remote access, rise in efficiency and output, requires less physical space. So these are all the 9 points as to the answer as to why should we go about using. Okay. Now coming to the last part of the digitizations discussion as to very important question on how do we go for digitization. Guys, very easy topic. 6 phases are there. I will go one by one in detailed manner. We will discuss phase 1 to phase 6. What are we going to do here, right? So how in phases we are going to do, okay, in phases, and then 1 to 6 each phase we will talk about something that is very specific on what you do in each phase. As I told you, we will discuss about all the 6 phases, right? Where what you will do and what are the key activities, how you will do these key activities, how will it help you in achieving your targets, everything we will see one by one. See, randomly you can't do anything. You have to do with planning. What is it? But before planning, first of all, the bigger question is it required to digitize? No, sir, it's not required. When it's not required, then don't do it. So, how do we understand this? Right, the last concept in digitization, guys, is to how to digitize. Come on. Phase 1. I will just write the name of phase 1 because it is easy to remember. Justification. Sir, what justification are we giving? Come on, let us go ahead and see what justification we are going to give here for this one. How do we digitize? So, the process of digitization is phases, done in phases, okay? In phases. And first phase 1 is about justification. Is it really needed for you to digitize? Because you do this exercise without knowing why you are doing, then it won't be any productive. So you have to make a clear understanding as to what it is and how it is. Okay, let us see that. Phase 1, justification. Identify, that is accrual benefits of the project. Identify accrual benefits of the project, right? That is what benefits that come in the project. No, sir, benefits are not there. Not much benefits are there. Then there is no point in you trying to do something which is not going to give you much of a benefit. So, first, identify what benefits accrue because of this. Estimate the cost, and also resource availability. Estimate what? Cost and resource availability, where it is and what it is. Estimate the cost and resource availability. Conduct risk assessment. What could possibly go wrong? That is the risk assessment. Normally, I think you heard it in audit. So risk assessment talks about what can go wrong if this exercise doesn't go as planned, or it doesn't go as you want. What can go wrong? So like that, you can as well conduct the risk assessment. Prioritize the risk of destruction, which prioritize those items which are at the risk of destruction. What would get done, what would go off. And clearly state value generation. What is the value that will be generated out of this project? Clearly state the value generation from the project. So if these are points that are clear, the answer is very simple. Why are we doing whatever we are doing? Is it worth doing that or not? That is what is called as the what do you say, justification. That is the idea behind doing this. Two, is it really possible to do the exercise? For that we will conduct an assessment. Because if too much data is there which has to be digitized, you have to see, the time required. Can we consolidate it? Can we split it? How? What is the content? What is the context? Right? How many files are there physically? How they will be? Is it easy or not? All that we will discuss. Phase number 2, assessment. Phase 2 is assessment. Decide which records to digitize. Decide which records to digitize based on the content and the context. Two things that you are bothered about are what? Content and context. Content means what, context means when. Okay, content means what are you going to digitize, and context means in say if I'm talking about now something in the class, I'm talking in the context of the class. That means in relevance, you can say. Okay, yeah, and relevance will be a right word for context here. Decide which records to digitize based on the content and the context. Choose between digitized. Are you going to do it normally, or are you going to do it in terms of how and all that? Evaluate, consolidated, or detailed. So consolidate means you want to group and do it again. Detail means individually everything. Evaluate the files, documents, tables, what are there with you. Then comes a very important point: hardware, software, and HR needs that are the very important thing. Assess hardware. Like, say for example, hardware means here scanners. So physical data, if you want to uh, convert into digital, what is the hardware that you need? Scanners, readers, however you want to call it, scanners or readers. Then softwares and HR people. How many people are needed? If one person is enough to do that, two people are needed, 10 people are, and then reassess the risk. Previously, we already wrote in the first phase about the risk, but then if natural disasters occur, what will happen? If any cyber attacks, till now, as long as your data was in physical form, listen carefully, as long as the data was in physical form, nobody had any problem with this. But the fact that this data is now going to be in digital form, cyber attacks can happen. Newly, what can happen? Cyber attacks can happen. So what are the first two phases, guys? A clear justification for why do we need to digitize, and the assessment of how can we go for it. So justification is clear and assessment of all the needs are there. Then don't digitize straight away. Wait, when to do, what to do. Should we do it by ourselves or should we outsource it to another firm who are very good in doing this? Like that, we have to think. Phase 3, planning. Plan the digitization approach. Should you do it in-house? In-house means by ourselves. Outsource means giving it to a third party firm, or on demand in or in batches. On demand means whenever required. On demand is when required, and in batches means in parts. Part by part should we do, or right? Then who is starting it, when they are doing it? I think all of you by now would have understood that documentation is one of the most important aspects of any of these discussions. No documentation, nothing of this will make sense, right? So therefore the point is clear: plan a digitization approach, prepare the documentation, prepare project documentation, use or manage your resources, define all the technical specifications, that is what are the devices needed. Technical specifications here can be anything, that is how much storage space is needed, in which format. Okay, technical specifications you can write on there in bracket, format or space, or like I'll say etc, because so many other technical specifications will be there. And finally, if something goes wrong, what should you do? Be very clear about that, right? So this is the set of aspects that you take into consideration while doing the third step: justification, assessment, planning. What are the first three steps? Justification, assessment, and planning. Justification, assessment, and planning. Now listen very carefully. Now comes a very important activity, because no matter what you do or what you do in the planning stage, while you start doing something in action, things can sometimes go out of our control. So that is what is point number 4, which are termed as Digitization activities. Digitization activities. All the key aspects relating to digitization are done in this step only, right? What are these digitization activities and how will they help us? We will see that and come back here. Come on. Digitization activities, 6-phase process by the Wisconsin Society, right? Wisconsin is a university. In that 6 phases, first planning, what to do? Again, capture all the data. Primary quality control is to check whether you have captured the right set of data. Then do all the key step is editing, right? Editing, I think all of you know the word editing. For anything that you do today, we will call it as edit. Photo editing, cropping the photo, color correction, metadata means data about the data. That is when the data was created, what is the name of the file, all those. Cropping, metadata, color correction. One more round of quality control, and then come about the storage and management. Final step, create final user copy, validate those file, and upload to a dedicated storage. Upload to a dedicated storage. So can you just see that? Documents, scanning, editing. Editing involves cropping, erasing unnecessary things, and save in all these PDF, JPG, different. What are all these PDF, JPG, and all these are all different file formats. Guys, yes or no? Do you know the understanding of not? So you have documents which are physical. Can you just take a full look here? Physical. Okay, then you're talking about scanning, then do all these edit activities, right? Editing, then analyzing text, image, text, whatever this. Then OCR stands for optical character recognition. After recognizing the optical character recognition, you can save it again in all the various formats. Okay, this is the complete digitization process. Complete digitization process, also called as the best practice in digitization planning and workflow process, whatever by names they are. That's an extension to that phase 4. So phase 4 is the most important and the critical phase where all the digitization activities are taking place. Planning, capture, quality control primary, editing, then quality control secondary, and finally storage. All these are the very, very important aspects, right? Because if you miss even one, it will not, fruitfully result in doing something. So, if you go by what we are talking about planning, capture, the gathering of the data, planning, capture, QC, I'm writing quality control primary. Then it is followed by the most important step, what is called as editing. Then comes again the QC secondary. And then finally we go for storage, right? So that is what is about the point number 4, which are called as digitization activities. I would request you to take a minute to run through that point. If you don't see it one more time, no problem. Just check that one more time completely so that we can have a clear understanding of what it is done. Yeah, so these are the 6 points. We will then come back and of course figure out what to do with the points that are there. Point number 5, process in care of records. Now post digitization, manage the administration, define access permissions. You know what is access permission? Which means who can control or who can access the data. Who can access? I will just give you 2 techniques. Maybe you don't know them, but you really need not bother about it. Who can access? Role based access control. Then we have rule based access control. So sometimes somebody based on their role they will get control. Sometimes based on some rules when you fulfill you will get. So who can access? Right? Access control mechanisms, if you study in that there are 2 types, role based and rule based. Okay, and ensure intellectual control over data, perform classificational requirements, and maintain a regular upkeep and data maintenance situation. And in case if you are working on anything, you also need to mention that data is updated from time to time. The conduct systematic evaluation, right? Systematic evaluation of the project's merit, worth, and significance, use an objective criteria for the assessment, and enable reflection and identify areas if there are any for future improvement. I don't think evaluation is any point that I have to explain it, because we have discussed a similar context in management where you're just checking did you get what you want to get out of that exercise. So coming back here to this story, guys, wherein yeah, there, so we discussed about 4 steps. Phase 5 is about point number 5 is processes in the care of records. Where are we storing? What are we doing? Processes in the care of records. And point number 6, without any hesitation, would be evaluation. So those are the 6 phases of digitization. So this entire thing is what digitization is, right? In the context, I hope you wrote the first steps clearly. Now if you want to write these reasons and phases, I can leave it for you on screen for a minute. You can also as well go through the topic in clear sense, right? We'll see if the entire thing, if shrunk, can be brought in to you to see. Yeah, I think you can see the entire thing now, all the headings. If required, you want to write them something, you can go for it. Put me on pause for a minute and also run through the entire topic that we have discussed across the last 35 minutes or so. We will then continue with another topic where transformation of data, how, whether it is useful in decision making or not. Okay, I will do that in a minute, but only after you note this down. Come on, everybody, quick. All right, guys, I hope you noted down. Then let's get moving on to this one here, where we are going to now talk about a small but a very interesting topic, because that alone can turn out to be a question in the exam, which is about the topic number 4 of this particular discussion, which is called transformation of data to decision relevant information. Now, a lot of data is there which is meaningless. We already know this. Huh? Data, when left unattended, is absolutely meaningless. We know this. But when data is transformed, it becomes information. Wait a second. If data is transformed, it becomes information. But the definition of the word information also depends on the perspective of the user. This is a very, very important point. What is data to me may be information to somebody else. Guys, listen to this point very carefully. What is data to me can be information to be somebody else. And what is information for someone can be absolute data to somebody else. I will give you an example. Class starts on the 25th. It's a open blanket statement, but it is a fact some class is starting on 25th. 25th October, 25th November, 25th December, 25th Jan, anything. Class is starting on the 25th. Now, when randomly you saw one board like that, class is starting on 25th. Which class is starting on 25th? Array, sir, in this building one IAS academy is there. Maybe they put the board. Sir, one CMA academy is there. Maybe they put the board. We don't know, no. But class is starting on 25th. The raw fact. You know the definition, right? Raw facts and figures are called as data. But somebody saw the board under the academy. Now they know the academy. They also know the relevance. Next batch commences on 25th, like that they put. So they know what is the academy, they know what is the batch and the next batch. So some people can make relevance out of that board, while randomly those people who are walking on the road, they're like, okay, some next batch is starting, we don't really bother. Which means the point is, not all data that is transformed is useful for decision making. Very, very important point. Not all data that is relevant, which is not all data that becomes information also will be relevant for decision making. So when you are making decisions, some kind of key data will only be useful. So let us discuss about transformation of data into information. Data to information is one part of the story, but I am not going to discuss only about that. We are talking about the keyword here in the story is decision relevant. When do you say decision relevant? That is transformation of data into decision relevant information. Which information? Some kind of a decision relevant information. So guys, I think we have already discussed the story of the big data. Correct or not? Big data, that what got what already came out of our discussion. So emergence of big data today. Big data has emerged in a great deal. It has revolutionized the business process, especially in information generation and decision making. The kind of information that is being generated is quite huge in today's time. So it has revolutionized the business process, especially in information generation and decision making. Talk about the role of analytics. It leads to a data centric and data driven. Data analytics lead to data centric, means being focused on data, and data driven decision making through intensive analytics. Through what? Through intensive analytics. These are the points that we have to take into consideration. Emergence of big data, role of analytics. Now comes the key important point. Listen carefully. Very simple point. You are transforming data into useful information. But the question is, are they useful for the one making the decision? You transform data into information, makes sense, but are they useful for the one who's making the actual decisions? Let us see that. Organizational data is converted into useful information, which supports prudent, means wise, judicious, means well thought of, wise, well thought, and repeatable decisions. So, prudent, judicious, and repeatable decisions. Organizational data is converted into useful information that supports prudent, judicious, and repeatable decisions. The key challenge here is, remember, guys, what I was just telling you, put a star to that point because that is the key fact what I was mentioning. Not all data that translates into information is useful for decision making. So some data that becomes information, yes, agreed, information is valuable. Yes, agreed, information does make sense. But after a particular point of time, that information remains absolutely useless. So therefore, maybe it is very suitable in the context of your understanding, but not in the context of decision making. So you have to take two things into consideration here. So what does then, sir, what should we do as an organization? What should we do here? Organization need to develop processes that transform raw data into relevant actionable insights. You need to develop what? Processes that transform what into what? Raw data into relevant actionable insights. So KPMG, one of the big well-known firms, it's also called one of the big fours in the world. So an insight from KPMG CFO's report. So what does KPMG CFO say? That finance leaders face two challenges. What is that? One, the efficiency involved in gathering and processing financial data, and two, shifting these limited resources towards value added decision support activities. So we have two problems. One, the time taken to gather all this financial data and process it beautifully, plus the second point emerges as an issue whereby shifting the limited resources towards value addition or decision making. Shifting what in what? Shifting limited resources towards value added decision support activities. So this set of 2 points, these are the important aspects when it comes to the problems that they have cited out. Now, how do we do this? Figuring out which part of the data makes a lot of sense is something very, very important. Okay, let us just go ahead and figure out how to try and gather the most valuable information. Let's understand the 6 core steps that are there. Guys, concentrate. First, very, very easy. What are the 6 core steps involved in transforming data into decision relevant information, not normal? Remember the question. Huh? What are the 6 core steps in what? In transforming what into what? Data into decision relevant information. Decision relevant information. So this is a very important point to be discussed. Talk about collection of data. Data is first one, collection. If the data itself is wrong, the processing will automatically process the wrong data. Results will ultimately be wrong, and we don't want that. So basically, collection of data. Data is stored, I mean, data is collected using standardized systems. Data is collected using what? Standardized systems, suitable software, hardware, and trained staff to ensure accuracy and relevance. To ensure what and what? To ensure accuracy and relevance. Two things. So first, collection of data. Now after collecting data, data comes from various sources. So what are you doing that? You are going to group them up. You are going to group it up, which is called organizing the data. Raw data is grouped and arranged. Raw data is grouped and arranged to generate relevant information for specific target user groups. Right? Example for CFOs. Okay. Specific target groups. For CFOs, what are the information that they're looking at? For CEOs, what information will they be looking at? What is that some other information somebody else will be looking at? Like that, we are going to talk about various target groups. So collection of data followed by organizing the data. Guys, what 6 steps you are seeing now? No, this is what your entire book will drive through. Right? How to do this? Next topic is there. No, data processing. How to do data processing? One full chapter is there on that. Then how to present the data reporting, presentation of data in various forms, that is there. So like that, in one topic, one aspect will be discussed in greater detail going forward. But end of the day, the whole life revolves around these 6 steps only. Collection of data, organizing the data, once organized, processing the data. The first step in data processing is called a data cleansing. Data is cleaned. Data is what? Cleaned, which is called data cleansing. Missing data or missing values are then addressed. Presentation formats are then determined, and so that you can enhance the usability. Sometimes you present the data in tables, more easy to recognize and use. Sometimes you present the data in charts, more easy, more eye catchy, more easy to see. Like that, how data is presented, that also makes a lot of sense. So data cleansing, missing values, and presentation formats are determined. Then gather all the data from multiple sources. Gathering or combining data from multiple sources. One word for that is called integration. Integration of data, which means combines the data. It combines the data from multiple sources into a complete unified system using master servers and data networks, enabling various analytics and business intelligence aspects. Enabling analytics and various business intelligence aspects. So collection of data, organizing the data, processing the data, and then integration of data. Then prepare suitable reports, data reporting. By in what format data, very important point is to understand how the data will be presented. After presenting the data, the headache is on how to use the data. How to use the data. So like that, that is called data utilization. Now, data reporting converts all the data. Data reporting converts all the data into what? Consumable formats. Into what format? Consumable formats. Like summarized financial reports. Summarized financial reports for easy access and understanding. Also alongside that, data utilization, how to use the data. Data is applied to corporate decision making. Finally, the last step is data is applied to corporate decision making. It improves efficiency, boosts productivity and business growth. to data driven strategies. Through what? Data driven strategies. So guys, without any hesitation, this turns out to be one of the most important topics that we have discussed in this session thus far. If you can put an eye to detail on the 6 core steps of transforming data into information, okay, we will obviously have like a point to discuss there, but yes, definitely it does make sense if you can go through it real quick. Right. Meanwhile, let me get this back on your screen where we talk about all the digitizational aspects. Right. This is there, right? So we wrote here about digitization. We will now go ahead and also put up this 6 set of core steps. I think we have enough space to do it here. We will put it up. So digitization done. I will take care of that. And then the heading. Please put the heading properly. 6 core steps. 6 core steps in what to what? Converting. 6 core steps of converting data into decision relevant information. Converting data into decision relevant information. These are the 6 core steps that we are actually going to talk about. We know what the 6 core steps are going to be. The first one is going to be collection of data. Step 1, collection of data. After collecting the data, what are we supposed to do? Put all of that into a proper form called as organizing the data. Collection of data, organizing the data, then followed by processing the data, which starts with data cleansing, right? Data processing, then from multiple sources, data integration, which is then followed by data reporting, and then also data utilization, right? So these are the 6 core steps that are involved in converting data into information. So if you guys can take a minute, go through that thoroughly and close it out, we will then discuss our next topic, which is something to do with the communication of these. Okay, we will now, we talked about converting, right? We'll talk about communicating them also to the right set of people, but only after you run down and write down all these 6 steps. I hope you noted it down, guys. Let us now move on to the next topic where we will be obviously talking about something very interesting, which is now that you have information ready with you, communicating this information. Communicating this information is also a very important aspect, right? Let us now go ahead about seeing how to communicate the information for quality decision making, right? If you want to make quality decisions out of the story, right? So let us see how that works. Communication of information for quality decision making. Giving the right information to the right set of people also is very important. So the firm should achieve the following abilities. What abilities? 1, logical understanding and application. Now, from the previous session, we know that data is of 2 types, structured and unstructured, right? So logical understanding, if you want, you have to then analyze both structured and unstructured data. Analyze the structured and unstructured data for planning, budgeting, and forecasting. For what? For planning, budgeting, and forecasting, and decision support activity. Planning, budgeting, and forecasting the decision support activity. Then next one is called predictive capability. What is something to do with predictive capability? Predict the outcomes. Predict the outcomes better than traditional methods that rely on historical financial information or reports. Predict the outcomes better than the traditional methods that rely only on historical financial information. Real time opportunity spotting during the course of using this data, or during the course of using the understanding of the information, you should see whether any of this information is useful. Huh? Any of this information is useful for you in making the right set of outcomes. Okay, if so, it is great. If not, then of course we have to find the next alternative as to what we can do for that. Okay, so yeah, we are talking about real time opportunity spotting. Detect emerging opportunities. Detect what? Emerging opportunities and capability gaps in real time. Capability gaps in the real time. Any opportunities there? If I take up something, what can go wrong? Sir, are you suggesting that we have to do some type of a SWOT analysis here? Yes, maybe that is how it looks like. If you can see it closely, that's how it looks like, right? Um, so, logical understanding, predictive capability, opportunity spotting, followed by a strategy for something uncertain. What if some uncertainty strikes up, right? That is also an important question to answer, right? So handling market volatility, black swan events, and black swan events and using simulation models. Simulation models are nothing but simulating a different situation. Like, it is more like, what if this happens and what if that happens, right? In scenario analysis we have seen something like this, right? Simulation kind of a story. That is what the be ready for what if kind of situations. If it happens, then what to do, like that. So if you are ready for that, at least, maybe I'm not saying what you thought will happen, but sometimes there is a possibility that if you have, I mean, it's not like you're becoming an astrologer gazing exactly what is happening. It may be the truth or it may not, but if you are ready with the solution and the same thing happens, you are well prepared. But uncertainties always don't come like that. They won't tell and come, right? When they happen, you just have to go with the flow, right? So if you want there, we can add an additional point below this. Black swan handle market volatility. I hope everybody knows the ups and downs. Black swan events, if you simulation model, they told you these black swan events are something. Say for example, it's a COVID can be rated as that. Like, comes as a surprise, because it was never there in before. It came as a surprise. It happened, and then it became normal, right? Comes as a surprise and then becomes normal after the fact. If you want, you can write it down there. What are these black swan events? Come as a surprise. Black swan events comes as a surprise. Comes as a surprise and normalizes after the fact. So that is what is called a black swan event, because you wouldn't have expected it. You don't know that something like this happened, and then suddenly it can, trigger the occurrence of something. Then diagnose, filter, and extract value from all the financial and operational data. What is useful for us? Value extraction is nothing but extracting or getting out what is the most needed thing. So logical understanding, predictive capability, real time opportunity, and so these two are more done together. One side on opportunities, other side on uncertainties. You are preparing a table for both, and then you are diagnosing, filtering, and extracting values from both financial and operational data for informed decision making. Use this data to identify what could give you a competitive advantage for better customer service. Use data analytics to identify any fraud risk which are possible and enhance the financial integrity. That means where you can save something or put up a mechanism. And finally, build impactful dashboards. What are dashboards? How they will be used? We will of course see in the later chapters in greater detail. But for now, if I have to tell you, large information presented in a simplified manner. Like say in your bank account, if you open today any internet banking app or any mobile banking app, last three summary, I mean, what is your closing balance? Like one initial phase of the screen is there, no, that is called a dashboard. uh, Small presentation but lot of data in it, right? That is called a dashboard, a finite presentation with lot of information loaded in it. The more beautifully the dashboard is built, with less effort you can get to know more of the information. So that is build impactful dashboards to track the performance and support effective strategy execution, followed by professional skepticism regarding the data. We will talk about it, but build impactful dashboards to track performance and support effective strategy. So guys, these are, every firm should achieve the following abilities. If you have information, it is not enough. You should use that information to your advantage. Use your information to the advantage of making quality decisions. Then only this exercise will be considered to be a fruitful aspect. Understood? Now, one of the very important topics that we are going to discuss is data's professional skepticism. You are going to be alert about certain conditions. Professional skepticism, those of you who already have discussed the story in audit, you know that professional skepticism is about having a questioning mind, not a doubtful mind, having a questioning mind. Now, no matter what you talk about certain aspects, we have to have certain standards when it comes to data gathering and all of that. You can't say randomly I will do whatever I want, my wish. We can't say like that, right? So we have to come to a wise conclusion somewhere or the other, whereby we get to understand the fact that okay, this is what is the data and this is the originality of the data. So when it comes to the professional skepticism, it is very important. See, there is a set of what do you say, laws and regulations also in the Information Technology Act, right? For example, there is section 43A of the Information Technology Act and 43B, right? Protection of personal information. In this, another information is there called SPDI, sensitive personal data and information. So like this, when you are collecting the data, now after the talk about professional skepticism, there is also a discussion on ethical use of the data and information. Now a lot of people collect data from you, correct? Lot of institutions, lot of people, they collect data from us. How are they using this data? Which is also a very important question to answer, no? How they are using the data. They cannot widely disclose it to anybody. So let us now talk about those two aspects, guys. Professional skepticism, professional skepticism regarding the data. What is the core and the main message? What? So professional skepticism in this context normally is having a watchful eye, right? When we talk about professional skepticism in audit, it is about having a questioning mind. In this, you know, you are not supposed to go and uh, there also it says professional skepticism is about having a questioning mind and being alert to conditions. Don't blindly accept everything, at the same time don't blindly doubt everything. There should be a uh, you know normal way. If you are doing things, if some data comes your way, accept it. But if there is some anomaly, anomaly means something that is an exception, right? What generally doesn't happen, then in such cases you have to introspect or highlight that. Let us see what is the main message. Guys, data analytics is a very powerful topic for decision making. Analyzing the data is very useful for decision making. Correct? Now listen carefully. But managers must not accept the results at face value. Sir, what do you mean by face value? That is, managers must not accept the results. I'm saying blindly. Okay, at the face value means whatever you see is true. You can't believe that, right? Professional skepticism is about having a questioning mind, not a doubtful mind or a conclusive mind. Okay, what mind do we need? A questioning mind. And a questioning mind always explores. There is a saying that whatever you see with your eyes may not be true. Whatever you hear with your ears may not be true. Sir, what nonsense. If I heard something, that should be true. No. If I see something with my own eyes, that should also be true. No. What you are seeing with your own eyes, you can be deceived in multiple ways. So if you want to accept the fact that you don't have to be deceived or you don't want to be deceived, then you have to figure out the approach for that. Understood? So here it is very very critical on how you understand that situation. Whatever you see, if you believe it is correct. And here one more danger about people why they believe is this is like there is a place. I don't exactly know how to describe it in terms of you know the generally in deserts or across rivers, some places will be there, like in deserts also. I'll tell you how. When you're walking in desert, no, suddenly there are some places where you step in, it will suck you inside. Okay. Similarly in water also, normally when you are swimming it should not be a problem, but you know that no, something that is going around that can pull you inside the water, right? So on the face of it, it won't look like it is going to pull you in that place that I'm talking about in the desert, right? If you understood or if you visualized what you got to know about it, right? So on the face of it, it will be like, okay sir, nice road only, no, we will walk. But if you walk there, once it pulls, that's when you know what depth it is. So like that, on the face of it, whatever you see may not be true, right? So that is the understanding that we have to drive through this in this particular topic. So I'm guessing that is called quicksand or something. You should just once check through for yourself, right? It is basically. And then one more thing I will tell you, illusionary. When you travel on highways, from distance, if you see, it gives you an illusion that there is water there. Nothing will be there. So like that, on bottom line, all I want to say is, don't believe whatever you see. On the face of it, everything may look good, but surface versus depth. On the surface, it will look clean. Now sometimes when same thing, water is covered with a green surface. Sometimes you think it is land, and if you walk on it, then you will fall in the water. No, like that. Surface versus depth. What appears to be very obvious may sometimes be misleading. So therefore, a deeper investigation is often necessary. What do you call it for? Deeper investigation is often necessary. So guys, don't blindly believe what you see. Investigate the results, and investigate or get a little deeper and then believe. Modern days tools are there. Now new data analytic techniques offer unique insights, where the data was brought from, what is the source, how it is, this, that. There are so much of detail that you can explore, which is exercising the topic of professional skepticism, which means it is often going into a deeper investigation. This is the context in data analytics, right? In audit also it says that have a questioning mind, don't blindly believe whatever you see, always gather evidence and then believe. But it doesn't use the word investigation. Here it says deeply investigate. So the skepticism concept used in audit versus here, there's a slight difference. So don't confuse yourself. This is, it says only after you thoroughly believe the data, believe the content. Okay. So new data analytic techniques offer unique insights, but they also bring up unique challenges in exercising professional skepticism. Sometimes one more important thing is there. You picked up a sample of 50 items. Two items or only one item is something that is misleading. Now, just based on that one item, if you conclude that entire population is wrong, that one thing again, those of you studied sampling in audit, you should have found this anomaly, something that is not the representative of the whole population. I want you to write there. They're called false positives. They look like they are positive, but there's a false positive. Tools nowadays may flag anomalies. Anomalies are right down there. Not the true representative of population, not the true representative of population. Say for example, one fellow, he went to attend a family function. He went to attend a family function, and that fellow, because none of the family members came, he went to represent the whole family in that family function. Now after going there, he started behaving a certain way. He started behaving a certain way. Then people got little irritated and they're like, hey, what nonsense this fellow is doing? Maybe their whole family is like that. So by seeing one person, you decided about the whole family. That is wrong, no? But in that context, that is become correct because he came to represent the family only. His aggressive behavior made everybody think that all the family members may be aggressive. But the truth can be only this fellow is aggressive in their entire family. Who knows? You are getting my logic. So by seeing that one fellow, if you conclude about their whole family, your conclusion will go wrong, right? Similarly, here also, if you take one false positive and you conclude based on an anomaly, you will make wrong decisions on the entire population. So therefore, flag those anomalies that turn around to be normal variations. Turn around to be normal variations. As data grows, the chance of misinterpretation and or over detection also grows. So be mindful of that fact. And very important point, difficulties in accurately identifying the true outliers or meaningful deviations. Outliers are some things which, I mean, you know the normal meaning of the word outliers, no, something that doesn't fit in the normal, doesn't go in the normal. If 100 people are there, 5 people are doing things differently from the other 95 people. These 5 people are called outliers, right? So like that, which are the wrong ones or which are the right ones to identify, like which are the outliers to identify, that also sometimes there is a challenge. Difficulties are there in accurately identifying what are the true outliers or any meaningful deviation. So therefore, you have to apply skepticism in doing this. But applying skepticism may lead to increased cost, obviously, because of the time that you're spending to see whether the data is correct or not. Sometimes when somebody gives you data and you immediately, now only I told you not to blindly believe it, but they will be like, acha, you won't believe what I give also. No, okay, don't believe. If you don't believe what I give also, we will see what you will. So that sends a negative signal, right? Applying skepticism may lead to increased cost, strained relationships, and even budget overrun because too much money would be spent in ensuring that there is a data is always right. So, guys, yes, you have to apply the concept of professional skepticism, no doubt about it, because there is nothing that you can do. At the same time, you can't be extremely applying it because, as you just read, it is as if it looks like, array, I gave you data. No, whatever data you give, I will still check. So that gives a feeling that you are doubting them also. Relationship will be strained, budgets can be overrun. Sir, then what are you asking me to do? You only now told me follow. Now you are telling this. What to do? Best thing to do is to strike a balance. Maintain a balance between excessive skepticism, which is costly, and over reliance on analytics blindly, which is risky. So guys, don't go on both ends. One is costly, one is risky. Strike a balance. Strike what? Strike a balance. Then role of regulators, emphasize professional skepticism as a core focus area in financial analysis and also in audit. In audit, definitely it has been mentioned as one of the fundamental principles of audit. Uh, the word professional skepticism, if you see, it is one of the fundamental principles. Fundamental principles of audit. Okay, and skepticism triggers wherever you feel doubtful, specifically with respect to any data or something like that, you have to be little focused on it and pick it up. Apply skepticism particularly when data complexity increases or red flags emerge that demand closer scrutiny. All these are the points that we have to talk about the skepticism. So have skepticism but don't have too much. At the same time, don't blindly believe. Have a balance. That is what this topic is all about. Guys, the last piece of this chapter's discussion is about how can you gather data and then later use the data very ethically. Huh? Gathering and using of the data very ethically. It is a very, very important sense of our understanding, because data can be collected from multiple sources. Data can be collected from multiple sources. But how are you going to use the data is also a very important thing, right? Because see, at the end of the day, you collect some data without the consent of people. It is illegal. You collected data from people with consent only, but you distributed it without their consent. So there are some important outcomes. In fact, to sum it up, 5 principles of data ethics are there, which is a very important question, which can as well come in the exam. So ethical use of data. Let's come to the last concept of the first chapter, which is talking about the ethical use of data and information. The 5 basic principles of data ethics should be followed. What are the first one? Ownership. Ownership of the data, right? Personal data belongs to the individual. Personal data, two things, guys. Personal data belongs to individual. Now, this personal data sometimes, you have to, these are all points of the section 43A and 43B of the Information Technology Act. Section 43B, I guess, is a strong section which talks about if at all anybody fails to protect the sensitive personal data or information, that entity will be sued. Huh? The and then any data you want disclose. Now, sir, but my Amazon shopping data is going on Instagram. No, sir. I told you this example, if you remember. One more time I'll tell you. I saw some shoes on Amazon, right? Then I got bored of seeing shoes, window shopping over. Then I closed the Amazon app. Let me want to scroll through some reels on Instagram. I went on Instagram. These shoes advertisements are coming there. Then I got irritated. I opened YouTube. Google ads are coming with same shoes. Now, Amazon shared this data that I saw shoes with Google, with Meta. When I open Facebook, there also it's coming. Is all of you, are you experiencing this or not? Sir, what nonsense? How can they do this? You only gave consent, man. Huh? Sir, I don't know, sir. When did I give consent? When you installed the app, you closed your eyes and blindly clicked I agree, I agree, I agree. No, there only. So one of the I agree was to give consent to Amazon to distribute your shopping data to all these social media sites. I don't want to share this if you say Amazon will not let you install the app only. Understood? So today, in the modern context, I don't again really blame only the modern context, but it is like that because people make money out of that only. But this is called SPDI, sensitive personal data or information. It is unlawful and unethical. Remember two things. Unlawful, that means you are going against a section. Unethical, you are going against the principle of ethics to collect. Unlawful and unethical to collect information without informed consent. This can be through privacy policies or agreements. Always seek permission before using personal or financial data. On almost all your apps, they would have taken permission. Now, if you didn't read the privacy policy or if you blindly went on to click something, that is not their prerogative, that is your lack of understanding or knowledge. Understood? So, first thing is the first principle is regarding ownership. Personal data belongs to individual. It could be called as SPDI. It is unlawful and unethical to collect without consent. So therefore, there are two things that are mandatory: consent to collect and consent to disclose. From whom? From the data owner. This is the first and foremost point. Okay, let us make a summary out of this. I want each point to be summarized because there could definitely be some sort of a question that can come up in future from this particular discussion. So let us put the heading here: ethical use of data. Ethical use of data. Heading, and say 5 principles. Guys, it's important to understand each principle. First one is 5 principles. Let's go with the first one regarding. First one is about ownership. Okay, so what about ownership? We will talk about it. Personal data, individuals data is called as personal data, which can also be called as SPDI. If you want, you can write the full form also. Sensitive personal data, sensitive personal data and information. 6 items are classified as SPDI. Okay, six things are classified as SPDA as per the Information Technology Act. It is not there, so I am not going into detail. But yeah, all your personal data comes and falls in the category of SPDI. So now to do anything with the SPDI, right? It is mandatory. It is mandatory to obtain. What is it? I'm not even giving you a choice. It is. I'm saying it's mandatory to do what? It is mandatory to obtain consent to collect and to consent to disclose, consent to collect and consent to disclose, consent to collect and consent to disclose from the data owner. Okay, so this is about the ownership. This is the first and foremost criteria or for the ethical use of data. Rest of them are very simple, right? So going by the second one, the next one that we are going to, I hope everybody got this first one, ownership, right? Now let's move on to the second one. We are talking about transparency. Clearly inform users about why their data is being collected, one, and how it will be used. Say for example, many of the online websites now collect this cookies data from you and all of that, right? What you have been recently using or anything, those cookies and all, what they will be doing. Second, rule number 2, be honest and clear the users about data usage. The second factor, what is it guys? Transparency. Okay, let me get to the second point here, which we are going to talk about is about the transparency. Under which there are dual questions. What are the two questions under transparency guys? Transparency, when we are talking about it, we are answering a set of dual questions, right? Why their data is being collected? So transparency means clearly informing users, clearly informing users about one, why the data is being collected, why their data is collected, and second point, how it will be used, how it will be used. These are the 2 points, why and how. So guys, this is the story about what we discussed as the first two things. Now then comes to a third point, the third important point about the. So first one is about ownership, second one is about transparency, third one is about where are you going to store it. Privacy of the data. Very, very important point is about the data privacy. Where data is going to be stored. How is it going to be safeguarded? No, you may have collected the data with consent only, but very important point is privacy of the data, which says, I'll just write it, then we'll go read it. Not all data should be made public. Now, hospital related data, health related data, and some other data like the, whatever I told you, SPDI, they cannot be made public. Not all data should be made public. So you have to keep it. Say I'll say example SPDI, sensitive personal data or information. It cannot be made public. It has to be so therefore collectors have to safeguard the data. Collectors have to what? Safeguard the data. It is about data privacy. Then ethical point number 4 is about the intention. Why did you collect the data? Okay, intention behind collecting the data. Okay, I think we will discuss both these points, and of course final point also come back and fill and close the discussion. Come on. Right, so ownership is clear. First point, transparency, we have discussed that, that is also clear. Now coming to the third point, privacy. Collected data must be safeguarded, as I just told you. You might have collected it with consent only, no problem. Even with consent, not all data should be made public. So that is example SPDI. Okay, and use tools like encryption. I hope all of you know what is encryption. If you don't, I'm just telling you, encryption is nothing but encryption and decryption are two possible methods. Encryption is a method whereby you are going to convert plain text into cipher text. Plain text into cipher text means what is normal, no, you will convert it into codes. That is called encryption. And nowadays all of you know that in your phones also you have 2FA, two factor authentication. Today it is called as 2FA shortly, which means two factor authentication. Until you do 2 times of authentication, you cannot use the data. So use tools like encryption and two factor authentication. Two factor authentication protect personally identifiable information. This is what I was talking about in the likes of SPDA. Anything that can personally identify you, your name, address, date of birth, all these data should be Aadhaar data, all these should be protected. So if somebody is collecting this information, the obligation is on them to keep it safe. Like all the educational institutions collect a lot of data, correct? Educational institution, do they collect a lot of data about you, personal information? Yes. Hospitals, telecommunication, your SIM card service provider, they collect. So all those, they have to keep it safe. If they unethically, okay, unethically, if they disclose the data to somebody, when can they disclose? If there is a pending case on you or on request of a court or police, they can disclose. That is based on law only. They disclose. Unethically, if they disclose, they will be held liable and you can sue them for the breach. Then intention, the purpose of data analysis, why you are collecting, the purpose must be ethical. Avoid collecting unnecessary data or exploiting weakness. Nobody will listen today. Huh? Ensure the ethical use. Don't misuse the data for any personal or business gain. Data only trace business. Does this even make any sense? Huh? People in business that do the data, they don't have ethics. Huh? They people know when I go out of my house, when I am in my house, everything Google knows. Just that they won't use it. They should not. That is unethical. But they have all the data. At now, like like the afternoon at 1 o'clock, I'll get a message from Swiggy. Are you hungry? Right, because that is my ordering pattern. Right, when I'm at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, my lunchtime I'll order. So they will send randomly. On Wednesdays, I will order sometimes from Domino's. So they will suddenly give the Wednesday offer back. So something like that. So just to trigger, right? They know my pattern where I am now. Like more than me, the Google knows where I go. So next time when I'm crossing a place, you have been here 1 month before, refresh your memories. Were you getting those updates or not? Come on. So and there nobody's sitting and doing it. It's all based on the system through algorithms. So therefore you have to make sure that data collected is used only for ethical purposes, right? And also the outcome, even with good intent, if analysis harms the data provider, even with good intent, if analysis harms the data provider because of biased algorithms. Algorithms are algos, sequence of steps. So if you write a biased algorithm, it results in a disparate impact, which is unethical, means not a right impact, an immoderate impact. So consider both the intent and the result. Point number 4 and 5. Intention and the result both are to be considered. So then only you can intention. When we talk about intention, intention should be what? Ensure ethical use of data. Ensure ethical use of the data that is collected. And lastly, point number 5, which talks about the outcomes. What are you doing with that? Okay, sometimes if the analysis is the biased, right, it may not, so can result the the results of data analysis, the results of data analysis should be used for ethical purpose. So consider both the intent and the purpose. These are the 5 points: ownership, transparency, privacy, intention, and of course the outcome. These 5 points, if you take care and ensure, right, then we can clearly and confidently say that yes, our data that we have collected and used is ethical. Okay, so guys, that's a very first set of 2 sessions that we did to discuss chapter number 8, which is our first chapter in discussion. Now the next chapter that we are going to discuss talks about how to collect data. All the points that we discuss, 6 core steps, right? Collecting the data, organizing the data, cleaning the data. Once cleaned, it's validating the data whether the input is right, and then processing the data to get outcomes, right? So how to develop the data for data processing, and how to finally put it into tables, distribute everything. So data processing, organization, cleaning, validation, and all data processing related aspects we will discuss in our next session. Please go through the notes of both these sessions so that you have a run through of the very first chapter. All right, guys, I will see you because you know what it says, as per the marking pattern, all 4 chapters have equal 5% weightage. So questions can come from all 4 chapters, and questions will come from all 4. So one is lengthy, one is not, that's all, but every topic in the book is pretty important. Okay, so I will catch up with you guys in the next session, where we will come and discuss about the next chapter, which is chapter number 9. Thank you, guys.